All right.
What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. I'm joined today with Steven. How you doing today?
All right, man. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. After all, I got my favorite audience member right here watching us today. And why is my favorite audience member here? Well, it's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate investors. Why do I do that? Part of it's because of it's the law. You also have to know everybody who's in your industry so you can figure out, okay, is there any overlap? What is it exactly that you do? And that's why I have them on. And I go through the 5 different motivations that I found are distinct among investors, and then I go through the 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal. And I say, hey, what's your core competency that you're looking to contribute to your next deal? You can get your own copy of that printed out, use it yourself to learn how to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate. You can just go to dandoesdeals.com. I don't even ask for your email address, which is a really, really bad idea. But before we get too excited, why don't we get you to introduce yourself, Stephen? Why don't you let them know who you are?
Yeah. So my name is Stephen Brown. I'm a real estate agent and a real estate investor in the Toledo, Ohio market. I currently own 6 units, and I'm going to be getting 9 more next week. 24 years old. Fun fact about me is that I am a quadruplet, and I also speak Spanish. So,
Excellent, muy bueno. That's good stuff.
muy bueno.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't ready for that one. If you said Mandarin, I'd be better prepared. But what can we
Yeah.
do? So
My
let
cousin's fluent in Mandarin, so
Well,
there's
so
that.
am I. Yeah, I lived in Taiwan for 15 years. So
Nice, man.
it's kind of funny being here in Canada because I frequently have to tell people that, it's like, oh, my French sucks. My Mandarin's great. But what can you do? But let's go through the different motivations. This is really to figure out where the guest is at. Everybody knows their motivations. They don't necessarily know the role that they'll be playing in a syndication or a commercial deal. So this is to find that part out. So the first reason why a lot of people end up picking up new properties in commercial is because they're looking to preserve their purchasing power. These are the people who already rely on the cash flow that comes from the assets they own to make ends meet. And if inflation rears its ugly head, kind of like now, the problem is they realize they have to make more acquisitions to keep afloat, keep the party rolling. So that's some people's reasons or motivation. That one's not high on my list. The top of my list is this one right here, which is trading time directly for wealth. And that means as opposed to salary or wages. I got a background in technology. You'd never guess, right? But I ended up realizing that sure, I've got this high salary, but I'm giving half of it away in the form of tax. And if the idea is to accumulate wealth and make sure that you can leave that door open for retirement eventually, whenever that happens, it makes more sense to pivot and say, how do I accumulate the wealth instead of paying half of everything I earn off the tax? That's what I'm up to. But most people, that's not really what's going through their heads. They're more thinking about fast tracking to their retirement. And really, what that means is taking control of their time. And that's something that I've done pretty well with in my adulthood, is taking control of my time. So this one's not a big one for me, but I like to leave the door open. But the bigger thing is that these are the people who want to either actually retire, maybe they're going to become an accredited investor and then they're going to move someplace where the cost of living is low, or maybe they just want to work fewer months per year or fewer weeks per month or fewer hours per week. So that's the next motivation. But the next group of people, they're never going to quit. They're just plain ambitious. They're looking for that legacy wealth. They want to buy their entire hometown, and they want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold down a day job. So that's another reason why people pick up commercial deals, and they'll keep on doing it and hustling into their 90s, which is also similar to the last motivation here, which is some people, they've decided they want to make a real impact on a certain sector of society or something like that. So maybe it's some people, maybe it's animals, maybe it's the environment, maybe they want to send people to the moon. Who knows what it is? They've got some other motivation, but it really is to help a particular group of society. And they've recognized that accumulating or fixing up your financial situation is by far the most effective vehicle to actually make that impact. So Stephen, as far as your own motivations, you're pretty young, so to be thinking about retirement. But out of those 5 different motivations, what resonates with you? What describes you best?
The one that stood out to me the most was the one where the fast track to retirement.
Hmm.
That's the one that kind of popped out to me when I heard all of them.
Right, right, right. So it's the control of your time, being able to do what you
Yeah,
want, not be looking over your shoulder for, what am I going to do for my next job when something dries up or something like that, right?
exactly. Mhm.
Right, right.
And
Exactly.
then
That's
having the
awesome.
income coming in without necessarily having to do that,
Right.
trading time for money. Essentially, that's not what I want.
Right, exactly, exactly. So let's find out how you're going to do it. But of course, you're already a broker. You already mentioned that. And
Mhm.
actually, this segment here is more for your benefit than for Stevens, which is to go through the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. And then that way, you know how Steven fits in, but you also understand the business as a whole, as far as like how these deals happen and who the major players are. So let's first talk about repositioners. Repositioners look at a lot of different properties. Okay, that's why I got all the papers and a couple properties there. And what are they doing? They're finding out which ones are a great deal. Which one do they add to their portfolio? Excuse me. And what are they doing with all this paperwork and whatnot? Well, they got a fancy word for it. They call it underwriting. And all it means is they're doing the math and figuring out, first of all, is this building actually making what the seller is saying it actually makes? And the repositioner label is because they have to figure out a way to change the property to find more more upside, I should say. And right now, that's more and more challenging because of the market. But let's go through the tools in their tool belt. The fastest tool that a repositioner can have for upside is getting more advantageous lending, but that's a little bit more obscure. The more obvious one for a beginner is understanding more efficient operations. If you can cut the costs by stopping those Benjamins from going down the toilet, then you're going to be making more money. But there's more than just unclogging toilets and collecting rent and mowing lawns, that sort of maintenance. There's also a marketing piece. That's one of my fortes personally. And the marketing piece is for making sure the vacancy rate stays low. There's also, accounting, bookkeeping, all that stuff. That's all part of operations. And that can help, but it might not be enough, especially these days. So the repositioner needs to use the third tool in their tool belt for upside, which is a contractor team. They do a value add. They make the place nicer, and then that way the tenants will pay more in rent, and they won't be sad about it or angry or whatever. At least not the ones that come in later. So, but the problem though, for every repositioner who has something in common with me, which I'm from the internet. And if you're from the internet and you're a repositioner, you're going to need a local. You're going to need boots on the ground. You're going to need a person who can be there in an hour or two to take care of the problems, but also to make sure that the contractors aren't cutting corners. They're finishing on schedule and whatnot. And same with keeping the operations accountable. But excuse me, if I go to the financier and I say, okay, here's my team, here's the property, all that sort of stuff, can you lend me, say, millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars for this property that's worth tens of millions of dollars or whatever it is? And they're going to say, well, there's only one thing you're missing here, which is who is your KP? Which sponsor is the KP? And the story behind that is you're not actually eligible for a loan to take over a commercial building unless you got somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset, because the bank has to be concerned, the financiers have to be concerned about the investors themselves. So they got to have somebody who knows what they're doing. You also have to have a certain amount of liquidity to be eligible for the loan, and you have to have a balance sheet between the sponsorship team of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Stephen, as a broker, that means you are partially in acquisitions because you're finding it, right? And pretty much everybody has some sort of capital raising functions of what they're doing on top of the other piece they do. But as far as core competencies that you see yourself contributing, what do you got? What are you going to add to your next deal?
To my next deal, well, I'm more of a deal finder myself. That's my strength in networking. Is my forte. In regards to finding properties here in Toledo, I mean, I have contractors that I know. I know the area very well. That's kind of where I can underwrite smaller deals. I've never underwritten a property that's larger. My forte is acquisitions and finding those properties and getting those locked up. But when it comes to other markets that I'm looking in, I don't have the boots on the ground contractors and all that stuff. So I think the management of the piece of the property is something that I'm not very strong in, and the parts that I am strong in would be probably underwriting and then also finding the deal.
Excellent, excellent. And everybody's looking for that. And you've already alluded to one of my next questions, which is as far as who are you best suited to help? It sounds like some third-party operators would be good, but of course you're going to want a bunch of sponsors because they're the ones who are actually making the deals, and possibly some repositioners or something like that. I always ask, like, who are you best suited to help? And I also always emphasize that if you have any 506B deals, you need to keep quiet right now because otherwise you might entice investors. So don't talk about investors or whatever. You have a 506B deal. If you have a 506C, go ahead and say what you want. But otherwise, who do you think you're best suited to help as far as people in commercial?
Well, for people that need help, I mean, I think I'd be more than beneficial for someone who's looking to get passive returns, as I'm looking for larger apartment complexes in other areas of the country, and managing a portfolio here in Toledo has not been the most easy thing I've done, but it's been a learning curve, and I've been able to learn from my mistakes, and slowly but surely over time, finding more properties to learn how to find them, manage them, do all the groundwork, and building a team around that is something that I have some experience in. And I think if there's an investor out there that wants to have somebody do that for them in other markets, that's something that I could offer to the table.
Excellent. Beautiful. So my next question then is ideal property. And so just so that we're clear, when investors are talking to each other and we're saying, okay, what's your buy box or what's your ideal property? They're looking for three main things. The first one's geography. So what states, what cities, what counties, what neighborhood? It could all be important. Okay, so geography, location, location, location. What's that all about? That's the first thing. Second thing they're going to want to know, we're talking about commercial here. So in general, it's going to be unit count. Sometimes, like if you're talking industrial or warehousing, it's going to be square footage. But the unit count is going to be the big thing that's going to tell us if it's an ideal property or not. But the third one is called class. And unfortunately, they use the word class for two different things. One is the condition of the building, which includes how old it is. Okay. So is it super old? Is it brand new? And is it immaculate? Does it need a bunch of repairs? All that sort of stuff. The second meaning of class, it has to do with the area that it's in. And so that has to do with the crime rate, like how close it is to schools, just is it a place that people really, really want to live? So the better it is, or, more expensive, whatever way you want to look at it, the closer it is to an A plus. And then the worse it is, it goes down through the B's. It's just like in grade school, C minus, whatever, all that sort of stuff. So as far as something that's easier to say yes to, or your network is particularly interested in, Stephen, what kind of properties would be the best thing for somebody to bring you?
Currently, we are looking for properties within the Northern Ohio and Northern Alabama markets. Primarily, anything between 4 and 12 units is our supreme focus, but we would consider looking at anything a little larger. I think once it gets above 60 is where we would probably have to bring on a lot more partners and kind of be creative. But we're looking right now 4 to 12 units. In Toledo, where I'm from, we're looking for B class and light rehab, and not a lot of work in the Northern Alabama markets. We're looking for C class and higher, but around 4 to 12 units as of right now.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. And so we've already got your ideal property, who you can help, all that kind of fun stuff. The only thing left for you is what's the best way to reach out to you? We ended up meeting through some meetups and LinkedIn. So is LinkedIn the best way to reach you, or is there a website that's better, or how should they do that?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me would probably be email. My business email is the letter S, brown, like the color, and then my company's name, which is Serenity Realty here in the Toledo region at gmail.com. So sbrownserenity@gmail.com. And then along with that, people can reach out to me via LinkedIn, Stephen Brown, Bigger Pockets, that's also Stephen Brown, and then phone.
Okay. So reach out via email and then do that, or find your phone via LinkedIn, or what you thinking?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, that works. So then the only thing left, it's actually not for you, it's for you in the audience, which is I need to draw your attention to the awful red button that's under my left hand. It's about the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And the only way to get rid of this ugly red button is you click on it and it turns into the magical gray button of tranquility. And it has magical powers when you convert that awful red button to the gray button. It means that YouTube might start paying for these videos instead of me. And that's what I want, obviously, full disclosure. And it costs you absolutely nothing. All it means that these videos might show up on your list of suggestions. But you can completely ignore them because you've already done me an enormous favor by hitting that button. Just like Steven, you've done me an enormous favor by joining me today. This has been fantastic getting to know you a little bit better.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it, Dan.
No problem. All right, thanks. Hey, thanks for watching this chance encounter. I want to tell you about 506B though, so that you can document your relationships for 506B compliance. The way it works is when you sign up, you get your very own QR code that is unique to you. Then if somebody has the QR code scanner in their phone, if you're on a live call on Zoom, or if you're at a live event, you can just scan their code like this. And then what happens is that adds you to their watch list. So when they get back to their hotel room or they get back home, they can binge watch through everybody who they met's videos, and then they can make sure that they have the compliance. So check it out. Make sure you 506B me after this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.